Sandy Says Read. Welcome to the channel. This afternoon, we're going to do story time. We haven't done a story time in a pretty long while. It's been a hot minute. So, story time today is prompted by this poor gal who has a viral video going around of her reacting to her 9-to-5 job. And you know what I'm talking about now, right? That poor gal who's literally crying because her 9-to-5 is, well, it's taken a lot out of her, right? She's got no energy, no time for her friends. I hear her. I hear the angst. I hear it. I feel it. And I feel sorry that people are like shaming her out here in the internet world, here in the interwebs. She's being shamed. And that's a sad thing. So story time today is prompted by the shaming of this poor gal because back in 1992, when I first got out of college, I had a 9-to-5 job waiting for me. I was the low man on the totem pole going into a publishing company. It was actually a cattle industry association, but they had a creative services department. In the creative services department, they published at least one flagship magazine and then some other creative publications and newsletters and guidebooks, things like that, okay? So there were other things they did in the creative services department. That's where I went to work, and I was the low man on the totem pole. I was the proofreader, okay? That's how I started my career fresh out of college, as the proofreader. Thing is, it is a change, right? I mean, when you're in school, when you're in college, even if you're in high school and then going into a 9-to-5 setting, it's a change, okay? The change that I noticed, the thing that kind of took me by surprise was how I felt about the fact that all of a sudden there was no longer this summers off thing, right? Now, my friends who went into teaching, they still get summers off, right? But I don't. They can still go on these vacations and excursions and sleep in all week and weekend during the summers, or I couldn't. I'm like, bummer. Well, but you know what? Suck it up, buttercup, right? We're adults now and we're in the real world and we got to make a living, and the phrase I hate, pay our dues. Okay, I really don't like that phrase, but it's a truism. We've got to pay our dues. And I'm going to come back to that later in this story time, because this poor gal that everyone is like flaming and shaming online, she's just got to pay her dues, right? Now, she doesn't want to hear that right now, and anyone in her position right now doesn't want to hear that. Back in 1992, I didn't want to hear that. Back when I had my first book published, Arca Books Publishing published my first novel, Choices Meant for Gods, in 2007, and a literary agent told me I just had to pay my dues, that I wasn't going to get accepted to like Dragon Con to be a panelist there. I had to pay my dues first. And I'm like, oh, doggone it. All right, fine. Well, over the years in my career, over the years as an author, I've been paying my dues, right? I still hate the phrase, and I like to think of it more like I'm working my way forward, okay? Every single one of us out here trudging through life, we're just working our way forward. We're making our way forward. With each step, we're just making our way forward. And that's what I hope someone gets that message to this poor gal who's being flamed. I hope someone who knows her gets the message to her, hey, you just got to make your way forward. And you will. I mean, crying on the internet is probably a little bit of a setback if your boss sees it, but hopefully she'll just make her way forward. She'll keep paying her dues and everything will be fine. Now, the story time part of this, right? The story time part of this is I had worked at that cattle industry place for maybe 6 years. I think 6 years. Went to work for a construction magazine. I had been working at that construction magazine for 5 or 6 years when I learned that they were going to be selling to a company I didn't want to go work for, a corporation that I had heard things about. I didn't want to go work for them. So I shopped around and found a couple of companies that were willing to hire me there in Kansas City. One of them, the person I would be working for if I accepted, was a little condescending and like made fun of my lack of math skills. I can make fun of my lack of math skills. No problem. I do that all the time. But if I don't know you very well and I'm going to have to work for you, maybe making fun of my lack of math skills is not cool. Maybe that's not a first step, right? So that wasn't great. So I didn't go to work for them. But the other company that had offered me a job, they were pretty cool, nice people, very structured, very rigid, but nice people, right? Now the structure and the rigidity is what we're going to talk about for a minute here, because it was like a 9-to-5 job, right? It was salaried. I didn't have to clock in on a time clock, but we did log in on our computers when we got to the office, right? It was kind of a trip working there. It was interesting. Like, we were issued these mugs that we could drink water from at our desks, and the mugs had lids on them and straws so that we would not accidentally spill anything on our computers. We also, we could not have food at our desks. If we wanted to eat something, we had to go into the lounge to eat something. That way we wouldn't get anything on our computers. But the logging in, that was the rigidity and the structure that was interesting to me, because the day started at 8:30, and if you were 10 minutes or more late, then you were considered late. And the way the hourly structure, or the way it was structured, was that in 2-hour increments. I'm not saying this very well, but the day was set up in 2-hour increments. That's how I should say it. So from 8:30 to 10:30 was a 2-hour increment. 10:30 to 12:30 was a 2-hour increment. Okay. So if you got there at 8:30, you were in. If you logged in at 8:45, you were late. So your day didn't actually start till 10:30. So you could sit there and work, but you weren't getting paid until 10:30. So if you showed up late, then you might as well just not log in until 10:30. It was that kind of structure. It was very, very rigid, and they were serious about that. That's how it was. So you could work from 9 to 5. You might not get paid until 10:30 to 5. Yeah. So we all have to work our way forward, move our way forward. I only worked at that particular place for about a year. I think it was about a year before we moved down here to Florida. That's another Oprah show for another day. I have to be really careful how I talk about the job I had here in Florida, because it was a cult. And if I'm not careful, it allegedly was a cult. And if I'm not careful, I could probably get sued into oblivion. I consider it a cult. I consider it a cult. Can I say it that way? I consider it, in my opinion. Yeah, allegedly. There you go. All right, that's it. Thumbs up for getting out of things that are allegedly a cult. Thumbs up for just making our way forward, moving our way forward. Because like this afternoon, look at this right here. I took the afternoon off of work. Back in the early days, back in 1992, if I needed an afternoon off of work, that took a visit to HR and some forms and crap and stuff to do to get an afternoon off of work. And your first job out of college, if you have a week's vacation, you're lucky, right? Back in 92, I think I had to work there for a year before I got a week's vacation. 2 years to get 2 weeks vacation, right? And I think that was the cap, 2 weeks of vacation. That's how that was. I've worked my way forward. I'm ancient. I've been in the workforce for 97 years now, and I'm at the point where with my boss, if I need an afternoon off of work because I've got a NaNoWriMo webinar and I've got a podcast interview and I might as well film one of these quick little videos while I'm in between stuff, my boss is like, if you need to do that. Take the afternoon. Fine. He's cool with it. He knows I'm going to get the stuff done for the magazine on the other days of the week. He knows I'm going to get everything done. It's all good. I have paid my dues. I've worked my way forward. This is what I do. I'm not the proofreader on the low end of the totem pole anymore. Although, let me tell you something. Those proofreaders are vital and important. If you're the proofreader fresh out of school, the editor of the magazine loves you and needs you. I love you and need you. I wish I had a proofreader. We need you proofreaders. We do. Okay, thumbs up for proofreaders, thumbs up for getting out of cults, thumbs up for paying our way forward. And guys, if you click the bell notification icon, you will be notified each time I do something random, crazy, hopefully uplifting, random here on this channel. Thank you for tuning in. tell me one of your crazy stories in the drop-down box below. The comments below, tell me something crazy and random that you've had to deal with in your career, in your 9 to 5, in your 8:30 to 6:30, whatever you may have had to deal with. Talk about it, share it, because there's no shame here. There's no shaming, there's no blaming, there's no flaming. We just share funny, good stuff about how we have paid it forward and how we're moving forward. All right? We're keeping it positive and funny and good. Thanks for tuning in.